So people have been asking for a video on Elizabeth Warren for the last couple of months, and I'm going to give it to you now. And it's mainly why I don't think she is the best candidate for the Democratic nomination, because she says she is a capitalist to her bones. Now, I'm going to talk about why this is a problematic statement, in my opinion. But from what she says is that the system is broken and we need to fix it. You know, maybe it used to be okay before, but at the moment it's not working. Something's gone wrong. But we can reform it. We can make capitalism better. And people like Andrew Yang also talk about this. Now, I feel this is problematic because it really either shows a lack of understanding of what capitalism is in the first place, or really tells you what you need to know about Elizabeth Warren is that she's not going to really change much. So capitalism is a fundamentally exploitative system, and her saying she's capitalist to her bones, she applauds Trump when he says America won't be a socialist country, and just applauds his general State of the Unions. That makes me pretty sick, to be honest. And so the problem is, like I said, capitalism is an exploitative system, and if you are capitalist to your bones, although you might not necessarily support monopolies, for example, support Amazon not paying their fair share of taxes, getting a tax credit, in fact, just like Activision as well, you do support the system that has enabled this in the first place. Now, I thought about making a video about libertarians for a while, but if you support free market capitalism, you can't then turn around and say, I'm against corporations, I'm against things like monopolies, because if you support the free market should regulate itself, in your opinion. This is for libertarians specifically. And if it's not regulating itself, you can't really step in, because what are you meant to do as a libertarian? You believe in this free market. You believe in small government. Now, in a general sense, Elizabeth Warren's vision of capitalism isn't total free market capitalism. It's where the government puts some checks and balances, but it's still a deeply problematic system in terms of you're always being exploited, right? Your labour is always being exploited. You're working 40-hour weeks, you're commuting, and you're not getting paid a fair wage, while your employer, whether it be a corporation or some smaller business, is making money off your back. Now, that is the problem. You might have to work 2 or 3 jobs. Even if you do get better wages, you probably still need to work a couple, depending on your financial situation in general. And there's so many other traps, which I know she's trying to address, like student loan debt, for example. There's lots of good policies she's pursuing, but I think her idea that this can be saved, this system, it's literally the system that is destroying the planet. You know, how can you stop, if you're a capitalist to your bones, how are you going to stop industry? How are you going to stop, for example, industries that hurt the environment? How are you going to stop, the coal industry? How are you going to stop the meat industry that cuts down the rainforest? How are you going to stop these things if you're a capitalist to your bones? I guess you can put regulations on them, but you don't stop them. And that's the problem if you start with you are a capitalist. Now, she has also been very wishy-washy on healthcare, for example, backtracking, talking about how it has to be brought in phases, and you feel like you can't really trust it. And when you tie this all back to that she's a capitalist to her bones, it makes you feel a bit more sceptical. Now, she's also consistently voted for Trump's war budgets, and now I want to talk about how she's probably a global capitalist. Now, what most people don't understand is that global capitalism, in terms of the world order, is still very based on the old systems of empire, and it's still very racist. For example, let's keep it real. Most countries with an empire in the age of European colonialism are very wealthy. Now, are they wealthy because they are better than other countries? Is the UK wealthier than somewhere in Africa because it's better than them? Is the US wealthier than every other country because it's better than them? It's just this particular group of people, they've been very successful. Because of capitalism, it gives everyone an equal chance. They've been very successful. They've had the best innovation. They've had all these great ideas because everyone's on a level playing field with capitalism. Or is it because in a capitalist system, especially the global one, the US, UK, the EU, all these white countries and some non-white countries are as wealthy as they are because they exploit the poorer ones, right? They exploit the ones they used to own. They get loads of African countries and Asian countries to make their products for them at the cheapest cost. So Ethiopia pays the lowest wages in the world. I've made a video discussing how, these women get paid less per month than how much their rent costs, right? So they have to share these small rooms with several other people. They're basically trapped in this wage slavery. And why is this happening? It's because American companies go in, and the elite in those countries like, come here, we have the cheapest labour, come exploit us again, and that's what happens. And that's the cycle, right? It's a legacy of historic colonialism, and it makes capitalism racist because it just uses non-white labour to prop up white, I guess it's a system of white supremacy in many ways, but prop up old styles of imperialism. Now, of course, many elites have joined in from other countries. You have the African elites, which we've emboldened through the IMF. We've said, here is IMF money, but please privatise everything in your country and we'll create nice oligarchies because that is good for American and Western business. Awful for your people, though. Now, if Elizabeth Warren is saying she's a capitalist to her bones, do I trust her to do anything about this system? Is Elizabeth Warren going to try and reform the IMF and World Bank? Because the US has a massive say in that. Is she going to start saying, let's not make these really poor countries privatise all their industries so we can exploit them more? Is she going to change that? The same person who votes for Trump's war budgets, is she going to change the way or try and reform the IMF from the inside? Because the US has the dominating share of the influence in these institutions. I highly doubt it, because if you're a capitalist to your bones, that is just global capitalism working. And if you are ignorant on race issues too, and general historical imperialism, you're not going to realise the legacy of that, and that libertarians think capitalism puts us all on an even playing field. Just come up with the best idea and you can make it to the top as well. We all know in reality that is not how it works, but that's the way Elizabeth Warren sees it, because she's talked about the wealthy and billionaires. She says, if you have a great product and you sell it and you make a lot of money off it, I have no problem with that. We all know that's not how it works. It's a tiny minority of people who actually become billionaires and millionaires through just being, having nothing and bringing a new idea to market, right? It's a tiny amount of people. Mark Zuckerberg essentially stole his idea from people who had paid him to make something like Facebook and his best friend. And these people were all very wealthy, especially, I think it's Eduardo's best friend, was extremely wealthy. Now, he has a good head start, doesn't he, with his product. And he's been backed by the Winklevi, as they call it in Aaron Sorkin film, as well to start with. So he's not really going to fail. And then people, like Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates, they're all highly educated and they have a head start in their business endeavours. And then you have people like Donald Trump, you have people like Elon Musk who come from wealthy families. And then we're not talking about them finding a gap of innovation. Like Tesla is garbage. And it's based on a cult of personality that he's selling these things. It's not that he's found a gap in the market for electric cars, because no one even buys them. Do you know what I mean? So that's Elizabeth Warren's problem. Elon Musk didn't just come out of some South African shanty town and said, I'm going to make electric cars and now I'm going to get loads of money because I found a gap in the market, because that's not how it works. It is the thing people tell you to keep you complacent and think this is the only way to do business. What would you rather? A system that has the 1% owning more wealth than nearly everyone else combined, or a system where there's no billionaires and everyone has a nice house, has enough food, and can have a good quality of life and actually enjoy their life, not work to death? In the UK, we're talking about raising the retirement age to 75. I'm 24 right now. 51 more years of commuting to London. 51 more years of 60-hour work weeks, including my commute. That is a system Elizabeth Warren wants, right? And it goes to the contrast between the Tories and Labour in this country. They're like, Labour are saying, yeah, you should probably work less hours. We've got to measure economic policies and everything through quality of life rather than GDP and stock markets. And yeah, you should probably work one day less, because you shouldn't just work all your life to make someone else wealthy. If you're a capitalist, you might think that. You might think you have to earn all these things. You've got to be exploited and treated like garbage. And in your mind, you might think the people who work the hardest get rewarded. Because the people at the top, they didn't get there through lazing about or working at McDonald's, maybe 40 hours, 35 hours a week. They got it through doing overtime, working extremely hard, dedicating their whole life to these things. And it's this myth we're sold. Of course, the people who work the hardest are normally the people who are working 2-3 jobs just to feed their kids and working manual labour jobs. Anyone who has worked a manual labour job, whether it's even retail or security like I have, they'll tell you, you do not want to do this the rest of your life. And I've been thinking lately, as I've got my full-time job, I've been employed for the last month in full-time work, And I'm thinking, if I was working down a mine or if I was working manual labour, I'd want to probably end it all, because I could not see myself doing that for 50 years. It would destroy my whole mental health. It would destroy my soul. I'm already feeling my soul destroyed doing work at the moment because of the commute is so horrible. Because then you have to choose between what you want to do in life. You know, at the moment, I can't relax when I come home because I've got to exercise. And then at the weekend, I can't relax either because I've got either to play football, I've got to exercise, I've got to, you know, you might have relationships like I do, you've got to see them, which is nice and everything, but you have to prioritise everything else. And that is the system. Capitalism really makes you choose. It stifles all creativity. You know, I want to do stuff. I want to do this YouTube channel. Can't really be too motivated when I'm just exhausted all the time from working in the capitalist system. So I have a massive problem with someone like that saying she will be the answer to your prayers in terms of making this system better. If you're capitalist to your bones, you don't get the problem. Bernie Sanders is a socialist. Jeremy Corbyn is a socialist. They're the ones who advocate for all these policies. Everything you have to be thankful for in your life in terms of the work week, in terms of the weekend, in terms of minimum wage, it's not from people like Elizabeth Warren. It's not from people like Barack Obama and people who are capitalists. It's from people who push back against the status quo, not people who assimilated into it and really just moderated your exploitation, maybe made your life better in some instances. It's like Tony Blair, for example. Tony Blair versus Jeremy Corbyn is a good example. Elizabeth Warren versus Bernie Sanders. So vote for the people who value your life as a human being, because capitalism, if you're a capitalist, you do not value humans as human beings. You see them as a cog in the capitalist machine. They exist to compete with each other, to try and get to the top, and they exist for the people who get to the top to exploit them to make more money. And that's the fundamental problem with saying you're a capitalist to your bones, clapping Trump saying socialism will never win in America, and voting for war budgets which help perpetuate global racist capitalist empires. So that is a problem, and that's why I would not vote for anyone who says they are a capitalist. It just feels like such a dirty word right now. I don't know what I am politically, and I've said this before. I don't know exactly what I believe and what is right, but I do believe fundamentally, well, I'm against capitalism. I'm anti-capitalist. I see it for what it is. And if you want to sort of chip away at it with socialist policies, that's a good thing. Like Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders isn't saying I'm going to end capitalism overnight, because he can't. But he's saying I'm going to introduce more socialist policies to make your life better. And that is sometimes the best you can hope for. Not someone who starts with, I'm a capitalist to my bones if you want to just have a product and make money and I don't understand why having billionaires is unethical. That is not the person who's going to save you or make your life better. You can't trust those people, because if they're saying that on the campaign where you're promising all the best policies you can come up with, what is she going to do when she gets pushback from the Republicans and pushback from her own party? What is she going to do then? She's going to capitulate just like Barack Obama. So don't trust her and don't vote for her in the primary, my American friends. Now that is all. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Sorry if this is a bit rambly. I don't have time to script these as much. I just off the cuff a bit, really. Like my last video, so I apologise if the quality is dipping a bit. I will try and get back to my old ways over Christmas. If you want to follow me on social media, please follow my new Facebook page at The Cavanagh on Facebook, the same name for Twitter and Instagram. Check out my Patreon in the description, check out my WordPress. If you want to check me out on Reddit, that is u/TommyCahill1995. Appreciate all the Reddit followers. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.